Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
On the show with us today, all the way from Redding, California, he is the founder and the CEO of a company called Labelcoin, which we're going to talk about here. Mark Miller is joining us. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob. Great to be here.
We see a lot of these crowdfunding, these types of different ventures that come across our desk that say they want to be on the show. And we look at them and you know, they're intriguing. But I have to say yours is very interesting just from what the very first thing I read, which is Labelcoin is the Robinhood of music. Can you explain that one to me?
100%. I'd love to. So, yeah, I mean, I've done those Kickstarters. I've done the Indiegogos, you know, as an artist for 10 years, and then jumping into the artist agency. And so we can definitely go there. But what we're creating is essentially a stock exchange for songs, or a song exchange, making it as easy as possible as opening up our app to where a fan can just go and say, oh yeah, I want to put $5 into this song. That's a great song. And then they start earning those royalties as dividends. And then they can resell those songs all within the app. So creating kind of the Robinhood, quote unquote, trading app for music.
You said you started out as a musician. Was that really the initiative to create this? And I know one of the things that you mentioned on your website, and I totally agree 100%, is you have a comment where you say, what do most artists have in common, which is it's a second job or sometimes a third job to help pay their way. And especially when you come like to Nashville, Music City, and you have all these aspiring singer-songwriters, you know, session players, touring players, and they're all trying to get their foot in the door. And of course, the first place they go is they go down on Lower Broadway and they play absolutely every single honky tonk every day. You know, they'll do 4-hour sets, and then they got to quit doing that and go to the restaurant and bus tables or be a waiter or a waitress. I get it. It's a very tough business to be in. So with you as an artist, initially, were you finding kind of the same obstacles trying to get where you wanted to get?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I started technically as a full-time artist, you know, coming out of college in 2005, and playing the small house shows, venues, you know, trying to scrape by. You know, I lived with my parents at the time. And then I got a part-time job working at a recording studio doing productions. I was lucky enough to at least be working in music when I wasn't on the road. And so I did that for 5 years, and then met my wife. And she told me on our honeymoon that she wanted to quit her job and join me in music full time. And I said, okay, that's awesome, A. And B, we need a new business plan. And so we discovered the college market and kind of found our way in there, took out a business loan from the credit union and jumped in. And we were able to figure out how to make a living, how to not have to do the second jobs of teaching music or other aspects. But by the time like 10 years in, you know, we came off our best year ever. We just moved to Nashville, bought a house. That year we earned over $120,000, and we're like, hey, we're making it. Like, this makes sense. Like it's consistently growing every year. We're able to invest, save, and then we got pregnant with our second child and decided to get off the road and help other people do what we did. And so we started an artist agency, and I didn't think it would be that hard, honestly, because we weren't the most talented people on the market. You'd never see us on American Idol or The Voice. We just learned the business and worked hard and grew and treat people the right way. But like, as we started working with a lot of people off those shows, like American Idol, like The Voice, people that have hundreds of thousands or even millions listens and followers, it was so surprising for me to see that they faced the same challenges that we did, that most of them had second jobs, and most of them were struggling to make ends meet or move out of their parents' basement. So it's always been on our radar. How do we help solve this problem? How do we help musicians get to just do what they're meant to do? Because the current estimates are that 98% of people that put music down on their IRS tax returns are making below the federal minimum wage for their work, which is shocking to me. So here we are, 10 years into our career and 120,000. But here's what's crazy. You take, $40,000 of that was expenses. So
Right.
minus that, we have 80,000 net income. Split that between my wife and I, both working over full time. It's basically $40,000 a year, 10 years into our career, and we're in the top 2% of our industry at that point. And so, what we've come to with Labelcoin, I really feel like we finally have a way that we can help end artistic poverty and change that narrative.
When you started Labelcoin, was this your vision, or did you engage with other like-minded people to create this?
Yeah, man, great question. So it's all spurred by an idea from a guy named Chad Peterson, who's one of my co-founders. So Chad was a Wall Street guy. So he was an investment banker, VC investor, and he was there on Wall Street in 2008 when they had the big giant Wall Street crash that took down our economy. And he lost his job along with a lot of his colleagues and friends. And just seeing people devastated, this kind of tells you who Chad is. He's like, I got to help. I got to do something. So he started a nonprofit to help people called Wall Street Exodus, pick their lives up out after that devastation. And so fast forward, he's there and moved to Nashville to take a job as a CFO at Skyway Studios down there. And then ended up doing a lot of work in the nonprofit sphere. And so he's there in 2020 when COVID hits. And, we all get the calls in March that all our tours are canceled, and everybody's out of work, out of jobs, and don't know when we're getting back. And he's like, this looks a whole lot like 2008 Wall Street. So he was like, well, I don't know much about music, but I'll start a nonprofit and help. I know how to do that. And he does that well. And so he created Hope 20 was the name of it, and got a giant grant from the government and helped a lot of musicians. And that's how we met. We were introduced to help facilitate with some of the education, some of the resources for helping artists get through that period. And that's when he shared this idea he had. He's like, from security. He's like, what happens if we take the future income earnings of artists and value that and bring it forward to today? And so when he shared that with me, I'm like, oh, there's something really brilliant there. And I've been getting pretty deep into the crypto space. And then, of course, from all the years in the music space, I'm like, what happens if we actually focus, if we take what's available in blockchain technology and focus on making songs specifically investable to the average fan, bringing that money forward to give artistic freedom? And that's when it all began.
So you talk about the artists that were on like American Idol and The Voice and all the other shows having to take those second jobs. And that's kind of the norm. A lot of people don't understand that just because you're on television, just because you're getting that exposure, doesn't mean you're getting the big break. You're getting that 15 minutes of fame. It's just kind of spread over 8 or 10 or 12 weeks or whatever the duration of the time span is. In reality, they're still struggling musicians. When they're trying to get funding put together, because they have an idea, they have this great concept for a song or a series of songs or a project, whatever it may be, now they need the funding. Now, when we talk about those artists that are on The Voice or on American Idol or America's Got Talent or whatever that platform is that they use, they typically come with a fan base that's in the tens, the hundreds, maybe the millions of fans following them. Where does Labelcoin fit in when it comes to the smaller independent artist who maybe necessarily hasn't had that break on television?
Yeah, sure. Well, from all the years, I think you've probably seen this too, Bob. I'd be interested to hear your take. But what I've seen from the artists I've worked with is the ones that make a living out of it are the ones that show up to work every day and they're consistent. They learn the business skills and they just don't stop. And so, I see a lot of people off The Voice or American Idol that do fizzle out because they're like, hey, well, I got on the show, got this break, but then they don't know what to do next and they stop working or they, it's like you have to keep producing music. You have to keep playing shows. You have to, keep promoting yourself and connecting with fans, and you have to show up to work every day. And so it is built for people like where we're at is really that intersection point. Like there's a huge amount of indie artists that be able to take great advantage of what we're doing. There are over 1.75 million songs on Spotify right now with 200,000 or more spins. That's not insignificant. And, if you're going to value that out just roughly, those songs could, at 200,000 spins, could easily be valued at $20,000 from those digital streaming royalties. And so if I'm an artist that's even hit that level or close to that, and I sell, half of those royalties five times a year for 5 songs, I've got a $50,000 base income, that's now consistency. Or if you take it further, like we've got Megan Davies is one of the artists on our artist council, and she's brilliant. She's been one of those people that showed up to work every day. She used to work in publishing, but she's been consistent on YouTube, and she's built up over 1.5 million subscribers there, and tours hard. And I think she's got over 30 songs with 20 million spins, something like that. But even for her, she's like, you never know what song's going to hit big and get 100 million views, and then the next one gets 150,000. And so being able to create consistency is also part of the game. So it's not like, hey, I got this big check and then you spend it and then you're like, hey, shoot, now I'm in this lull of this song's not performing as well. So with what we're trying to do with Labelcoin is help create that consistency, based income, based salary, where artists are selling some of those future earnings, but they're getting a more engaged fan base and a more regular income they can actually count on.
On the show with us today, Mark Miller, who is the founder and CEO of Labelcoin.
Hey there, I'm Lily Grace, and you can listen to my podcast on the business side of music now.
You're listening to the business side of music.
As a musician, you have a dream, that vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or you're just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about a committed, benevolent interest in them personally. This independence, coupled with that committed, benevolent interest, means they represent you, the client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products, it's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact my buddy, John Adams, with Money Concepts at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309. You can also email John at jadams@moneyconcepts.com.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right. Everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics, all written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message.
You're listening to the business side of music.
You talk about showing up to work every day, which is somewhat difficult of a mindset for the independent artists, because it's like, what do you mean show up to work every day? Well, your craft, your creative soul that's in your body, you still have to get up, get out of bed, and put something together. And I think when you mention about the artists that are creating content, that seems to be easier said than done. I would think they would almost need to set goals and start there and work on those things, work on the things that are going to make sense. But building that fan base and keeping it is probably one of the most key components, you would think?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've always used the acronym when I'm talking to artists, which is AID, AID, which is awareness, interest, and demand. And the first thing you have to do is you have to create that awareness, and then you have to turn that into an interest, and you have to turn that into demand so that the fan will become so engaged that they want to purchase your music. They want to go to your shows. They want to own a piece of your merchandise.
Yeah.
The artist that's going to come to you, that's got the work ethic, they're showing up every day, they've set their goals. Do you help them establish a realistic number, a realistic goal of what you think they can achieve based on the number of fans that they have, whether it's 10,000 followers or it's 100,000 followers? Where do those numbers come from for you as Labelcoin to help them set something that's realistic?
Yeah, the great question. And we do that and create tools for them to use. It's interesting right now because a lot of people have probably heard about the song catalogs being sold. You know, people like Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen selling their catalogs for, hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's interesting, like, to hear the basically the way that catalogs are valued. It varies a little bit, but they basically look at the past 3 years average, like what has a song earned over the past 3 years, or these songs collectively. And then how do we project that forward for how long, depending on the artist? So anywhere from typically 20 to even like 28 or 30 years almost. And so then that's the value of the catalog. Now with us, what we're doing, we don't have the history of Bruce Springsteen, right? For most of these artists, like Bruce can use it if he wants to, that'd be great. But what are the other factors? And it is higher risk. And so what we've done is we're basically trying to project out about 10 years using this discounted cash flow model that's being used in song catalogs, quote unquote. And so we try to project out 10 years of earnings, but we use other factors such as, touring history, or what other projects has this person worked on? What's their fan base? And connecting those, the APIs where we're able to talk with other software or data points and bring those in to use for our formulas. And so by doing that, we create a song valuation that's an estimate. I think of it as fantasy football numbers, really, right? Like we all think Patrick Mahomes is going to get 4 touchdowns next Sunday, but who really knows, And he could break his leg and be out for the season. I hope it's not going to happen, Patrick, because I'm a KC fan. But but that's what it's an estimate. And then the artist, though, actually gets to choose their valuation. So they see that. The fans who are investing will also see our number, but then the artist is actually going to choose, okay, this is what I'm willing to sell this percentage of my royalties at. And then the fan is going to see one other really important number. They're going to see how many spins, on average, would it take for me to earn, a 10% APR, like a 10% return on my investment every year, or a 20%, or whatever my goal is. And then they can assess and say, okay, yeah, I think this song can get 100,000 spins a year, or 200,000, or $1 million, whatever that number is, and let them make a more informed decision and expectation that's more realistic. And then they're also going to see a confidence factor that shows how much data went into this valuation estimate. So just to try to give them a realistic expectation, because a lot of people think if you're on American Idol, you must be making millions of dollars, and it's just not the case. So, but we think it's really important for the long-term longevity of this project, and for investors to be able to have a realistic expectation and to know what they should return.
You brought up an interesting question that I want to ask you, and that is the value of the song is a certain factor. It's a certain number. What percentage of that should the artist be willing to, I don't want to say give away, what percentage should that artist be willing to sell to that fan base and still retain a certain sense of ownership?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we think that sense of ownership is really important because that protects the song, right? If an artist will keep pushing that song, keep playing it, keep presenting it. And so we actually cap it at 50%. That's the max. So no more than that. But then it's going to come up to that individual artist strategy, especially if you're bringing on back catalog. I would say don't flood the market yet. You can start out with 10% of several songs and then add some more on there. But eventually it's what are you comfortable with? But one thing that's cool is that you're not just doing a one-time sell like what's happening now with song catalogs. Okay, you sell it once, you get your money, it's gone, no more ownership. You are selling those digital streaming royalties, but every time we call those song shares notes, every time those notes are bought and sold, there's actually a small transaction fee that happens, and we give the artist 40% of that transaction fee. So they continue to earn money even after it's been sold the first time, and every time thereafter. So as long as they keep releasing music and keep creating demand for what they're doing, those songs are going to keep being sold and traded, and they're going to keep earning from those songs in perpetuity.
What platforms would these songs be played on that would create that revenue stream?
Yeah, so the way that we do this is we partner with the distributors. So we tie in there. For example, if an artist wants to sell 10% of their digital streaming royalties, we would get a 10% split from that distributor, and we become the custodian of those royalties. We would then distribute that to the song holders, the people who have bought those notes. And so handling that process. We are collecting whatever the DSP or the DSPs are paying into the distributor. So Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, et cetera, whatever those funds are, that's what we're selling, and that's what we're distributing and collecting on. So we do want to tackle the other areas, but we have to do it in a way where investors are protected and we know we can tie into that money stream. So our next spot is publishing. We're working with a new advisor we brought on board just recently on how to figure out that piece the best. But we would love to in the future be able to tackle more of the composition side of the songwriter shares for ways that they can earn money, especially in the Nashville crowd, and how we can bring those other revenue streams forward.
Does sync licensing play a factor in any of this at this point?
Not at this point. That we are talking with Sync about ways to be able to, basically sell that, make that a security, make that investable. But it does in the sense of boosting spends, right? If we get a great placement on a movie, like we know from right now with Stranger Things, it can drive up those streams quite significantly. And so it plays a piece, but currently what's being sold, those digital streaming royalties, you're not making a cut off of that sync placement specifically.
Right. On the show with us today, Mark Miller, who is the founder and CEO of Labelcoin.
Hi, I'm Mike Flanders, and please check out my interview on the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives, whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
Since 1963, Korg has been creating new experiences in music and performance. That is what drove the creation of some of Korg's most legendary products, such as the Poly 6, the M1, the Electribe, the Triton, the Minilog, the Kronos, Wave State, Op6, and most recently the Nautilus, which is what we have here in our studio. Korg is dedicated to creating new, innovative, and uncompromising instruments which maintain the highest quality to inspire music makers, past, present, and future. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products and start creating new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Labelcoin's basically broken down from what I could tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's really broken down into two components. The one side being the artist and the other side being the investor. So we've talked a lot about the artist aspect of it. Let's talk about the investment side of someone coming on board to Labelcoin as an investor.
Absolutely. So it's super easy. Right now, there are things being done with music NFTs, in the blockchain space where people are trying to sell and find different ways to monetize that space. But it's pretty challenging for an investor, for someone to come on board. They have to have some kind of knowledge, be able to, download a MetaMask wallet and notes something about crypto and how to sell and set a floor price and all those kind of things. And so we knew that from the start, to make this investable to the average fan, that we have to come at it a different way. We're building everything within the Labelcoin app itself. So all that the person has to do is say, it's this simple. You're at a show, you hear a great song, and the artist says, hey, if you love that song, you can actually own part of it. Here's the QR code. And then you just download that app, and boom, you can just buy that song right there with your credit card, your debit card, bank account, crypto, whatever you want to use, and you're issued notes, and you start earning royalties. So it's that simple. And within the same app, you can sell those right there, just like you would as simply as on the Robinhood app. And so it makes it easy that we do all the blockchain work is happening in the background so that people don't even know what they're having to deal with. We take care of the hard part. Another thing that's really cool for the investor, though, is this one other element, the curated collections, which are basically song mutual funds. And so that allows someone to invest not just in one song, but into a suite of songs. But as an investor, you can also choose to be a curator. And if you're one of those people that's great at picking the next great song and you put together that and people invest into your fund, you actually earn 5% of those royalties. And so we see that being a game changer for not just really invested fans that are great at picking good music, but also people like music bloggers and influencers and venues and other people that have more access to a revenue stream now.
You're almost describing an A&R person.
Yeah. And a lot of people who haven't been compensated well previously. We wanted to give them a way to make a living as well.
When you talk about, being at a show and the artist saying, hey, you can just scan the QR code, are there other ways for that investor to be able to capture that song? Is that something that can be done on a website or a Facebook page or anything like that?
Yeah, so it'll be built. It's native apps to iOS, to Android for phones, but then also on the computer, on the website, you'll be able to do it there as well. But otherwise, socials, just be linking to it. You have to come to our platform for security reasons.
Yeah. So that brings up the next question. So everything is ultimately funneled down to Labelcoin.
Exactly.
What is the projected, and I don't know, maybe you can't answer this or are not able to answer this, but what should the investor expect on a typical investment of a song? Is it percentage-wise? How does that work? Yeah,
it's going to vary depending on the investor, right? On what they want to get back. And you'll be able to see songs with more history. If you're looking at an artist that's already got, like Megan Davies, who's already got, 30 songs with 20 million spins, then you can have a decent guess that her next songs are probably going to do decently as well.
Right.
So it's less risk, and you'll be able to see what will it take to get there. So, but I think a lot of investors are looking for just a 10% return every year. But some people are looking for more. Some people are less. Some people honestly just want to be connected to the song. Right now people are giving to artists, supporting them out of the kindness of their hearts on Kickstarter or Patreon, and hope to get a t-shirt or maybe a house show. That might not happen. That's kind of what they're doing now. So now you can actually be able to support artists, but in a way that's actually an investment that can bless you in the long run.
So I follow this one artist, and his name is Daniel Diaz. And I noticed that when I look at his songs, sometimes he'll have like 3.2 million views. Other times he'll have 100,000 views. He'll have, 300,000 views. How do you pick and choose with that kind of a widespread? And obviously, I look at that and that song's been out for a year. This song's been out for 3 or 4 years. And that's why the numbers change. How deep should a catalog be for an artist for this to work? You mentioned 25, 30 songs. What's a good starting point for that artist to come onto Labelcoin and say, okay, I'm ready to do this. This is how many songs I've got. It's X number.
They can't come on as early as they want to. It's just obviously a riskier bet. When I first made my first album, Nashville, 2003, when I started that process, I had my parents and my friends are like, hey, I'll put some money into that. I'll invest in your songs. And of course, mostly it was a gift at that point, but you have those people, right? Artists have those people. They're like, oh, I just believe in you. I love you. Here.
We call them angel investors.
Exactly. So an artist, if they have that, they can still use this platform, this mechanism for that. And ultimately it's up to the investor to choose what they want to put into a song, right? But even as a new artist, I would have been thrilled to be able to sell half of my song for even $2,500 at that point, and be able to have that money to help fund what I'm doing and grow faster. It would have been exciting for me back then. And so it's just, we want to just give the tools that people can use for their own strategies, and that investors can have a mechanism that's protected, that's, registered with the SEC, that they can actually count on, hey, we're getting paid. Because right now in the models, if you invest in an artist, it's just as an angel investor, you're counting on that artist to pay you back or to be good at accounting or, make good decisions or whatnot. Whereas with what we're doing and all, as long as the song's getting spins, you're getting paid. It's protected.
How does the artist get started on Labelcoin? They come to you, they're ready to pull the trigger. What are those first steps?
Yeah, so they just right now they can join what's called our waitlist, actually, on our website at labelcoin.io. And by doing that, they'll actually get on the early beta and what we're doing. We won't go live till probably the end of this year, but their feedback's really valuable. And that's what we've used right now. They'll get to see the features, and we'll be putting our marketing money behind those people. So they can sign up now at our website to join that waitlist. But also, once it's actually live, then it's just going to be as simple as going through the process on the sign up. And you have to sign certain agreements and watch videos, understand this is what I'm doing. We have to have KYC, know your customer. We have to know that you actually have these rights and you are who you say you are. So there's a verification process, but it's pretty painless. And then we just have to connect with your distributor. So that we can get that split. And from that point on, we set up the listing, we set up the listing date, and then we handle all the back end stuff, the registering the song with the SEC, the payouts, all the form filing that has to happen. So for them, it's pretty much signing those agreements, giving us verification, and then facilitating that label split. And you're live.
What do they need to bring when it comes to the proof of the ownership of the song?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we're still actually working with our legal team to fully cover that, because it gets more complicated based on, as an independent artist versus with a major label. There's a lot of different people and entities of ownership. And so I think probably our biggest key is going to be going with the PROs too, and being able to tie in and see, okay, here's the owner, here's the ISRC code, and here's who owns this song, who's got the rights to it, and see that there's no competing claims to that. And then being able to verify, with photo ID, et cetera. And we actually are working with some partners on that verification process to say that this is who you say you are.
Very good. Did we miss anything? Anything else you want to go over?
Just like, I know that some of your people are probably forward thinking and already using music NFTs or jumping into that space, and which is awesome. And so actually in our second phase, we're going to have an aggregated NFT marketplace. So underneath that Labelcoin profile, they'll be able to basically import the links to all those different NFTs wherever they live, so their fans can find it in a simple, easy to find spot. And then we're going to go into really cool utility NFT minting on our platform. So they'll be able to, for example, if you own 100 notes of the songs, you could issue them an automatic NFT that gives them a 20% merch discount or discounts at shows or backstage passes, things like that nature. But then we also want to tackle, going into the NFT concert tickets and actually making shows and tours investable to the average fan, getting that street team, getting those engaged fans. But one of the cool features that's with that is coming in phase 1 is geofencing.
I'm sorry, is what?
Oh, geofencing. So what that is we want to support the artist in all the holistic ways, and also like the labels in these different spaces. What's important? How do we drive that artist career forward? And of course, your revenue from your songs is one thing, but touring is probably one of the biggest other things. And so an artist can flip a switch and say, okay, you can only buy these notes during this time period at my shows. So you have to be actually present at this show in order to actually buy ownership of my songs. So a great way for them to actually drive sales and people coming to their shows.
Sounds like there's a lot of creative process involved, and I like hearing that.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you so much for being on the show. This was great. And once again, how can they find you?
So labelcoin.io. That's our website. And they can sign up there or follow us on all the socials. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever they want to go. We'll see you there.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.